Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Hicks with Glenrose Philanthropy Advisors, and I was born and raised here in Spokane. I did leave for 14 years, but like a homing pigeon, I came back home, like many people. And I love the people here, and I also love that people understand the hunger for hiking and the outdoors, like they don't always in other places. So I love that.
And then Jennifer, would you tell me just a little bit about what it is that you do, what sorts of services you provide?
I am a synthesizing generalist, helping my clients navigate the highly specialized fields of finance, taxation, and legal advisors, and helping them work between the different advisors. And my specialty is guiding people with their philanthropic decisions, which charities to give to, how much to give to, when to give those donations. And so I just help people be smarter about their giving.
That sounds like a great mission. So next up on my screen, I have Joy. Joy, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Joy Peltier, and I work for Fairmont Memorial Association. And my role there is I'm a family service representative and a pre-planning specialist. What that means is people who would like to pre-plan their end-of-life arrangements can come in and talk with me. We can talk through all the options. And I've been in the Northwest for about 40 years, which is most of my life. And I spent a little bit of time in Portland. I came back to Spokane because I love it here. I also love our community's commitment to each other and to the stewardship of our natural environment. Also, just love the outdoors. As Jennifer mentioned, our city motto was near nature and near perfect for a while there, and that seemed very fitting. So it's my appreciation as well.
Thank you. And Kendall, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Kendall Frazee. I'm a solo practitioner at Frazee Law. It's a law firm dedicated to estate planning, probate, and guardianship work. So I love working with people on their last will and testament, durable powers of attorney, healthcare directive, all of those really important documents to make sure that your family and your assets will be protected and provided for if you should become incapacitated and when you eventually pass away. I am from Spokane. I've lived here my whole life, except for about a 3-year stint while I was in Seattle attending law school. It was so much fun to come back to Spokane. It seemed like the time that we were in Seattle was such a pivotal growth period for the Spokane community. So coming back after being gone for a little bit was just really exciting to see all of the new restaurants that had popped up and all the activities. And I have 2 young kids, so seeing all the things that are available for them has just been a blast as well. I love Spokane. I love that it feels like a larger city, but it still does have that really tight-knit community, and I just really appreciate that.
Thank you, Kendall. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, we'll go to Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Updegrove, and I am a financial advisor here in Spokane, working on my financial planning certification currently. I've lived here for the last 10 years, and the 8 of those-ish I spent in the nonprofit environmental field as a development director. Right now, what I do in this new career is I help people plan for their financial futures and meet their financial goals. So what that can look like is a number of things. Think about what your goals are as an individual. You want to retire one day, you want to send your kids to college, you want to potentially, make a charitable donation to a specific nonprofit. And so what I help people do is plan that, set that journey in place, and then partner with them to help them achieve that.
Thank you. And I'll introduce myself. My name is Carol Corbin, and I'm the Director of Philanthropy and Communications for Inland Northwest Land Conservancy. I have lived in Spokane for almost 18 years. I'm originally from the East Coast, but when I moved out here and discovered the ready availability of the outdoors and outdoor experiences, I decided that this was the place that I want to stay. And working for the Conservancy really enables me to help protect the environment and the nature and the access to nature that I really love and that I believe is the best future for my son. So that's why I am here and do what I do. And I'm really excited to convene this conversation today about financial planning, estate planning, and really making sure that you're meeting both your own personal financial goals and your philanthropic goals, and that you're planning the legacy you want to leave for our community. I'm going to change up the view a little bit so we get hopefully a better recording. Okay, so now we're on speaker view. I'm assuming this is what Zoom is capturing on my computer. We'll see how it turns out on the other end. But the next question is, and we may have touched on this already just a little bit in your introduction, but tell me about a personal value that you hold that drives your work, and how does that influence the ways in which you counsel your clients? So Joy, I'm going to go ahead and start with you if you want to tackle that question.
All right, thanks. I would say the value that I hold that feels most primary is advocacy. No matter what job I've ever had in my life, I always see myself as an advocate for the people I'm working with. So in this particular role, I ask questions to learn about your values and your goals. And then we sit down together, make your end-of-life plan in a way that aligns with your values. So for example, if you have an end-of-life plan, if you want an end-of-life plan with a small carbon footprint, then our green burial option at Riverside Memorial Park may be a good fit for you, or possibly human composting or water cremation. Those are kind of the three main environmentally friendly options we have. So advocacy.
Thank you. Kendall, what about you? What are some values that drive your personal life and the ways that you counsel your clients?
The first word that came to mind was empathy. I have the honor of walking with people in such sensitive and emotionally charged areas of their life. So just making sure that my clients know I certainly never see them just as a bill that I can send or time that I can invoice for, but really, who is this person? And just making sure that I can show that to them, that's why I'm there, is to work through whatever their plan is, to, walk through the probate process with them, do their estate planning with them, and just realize that none of this is easy to talk about. So if they don't trust me and if they don't feel like I care about them, it's just not going to be a beneficial process for them, in my opinion. They might end up with some documents that work for them, but just really taking them through beginning to end, them knowing that I care about them and how this will impact their lives.
Thank you. Chelsea, tell me about your value system and how it helps to influence your work.
Yeah, I'd say there's kind of two value systems at play, one of which is actualization. So a lot of what I do with my clients is, it's not just digging into the dollars and cents. It's really sitting down and asking them, what do you want? Where do you see the next 5 years, 10 years, 30 years? What kind of a legacy do you want to leave for your children and in your community? And then working backwards, how do we actualize that? How do we put wheels on that and make that dream or that vision come to fruition? So actualization is one. And then there really is a lot of what clients talk to me about are their values and what they care about. So there's an element of community there. And sometimes clients say, I want to do anything I can to support the causes I care about. Sometimes they talk about how what they want is to build their dream home and make that come to fruition. So I would say actualization and community for my clients. And I'll say there's a huge element of empathy, like Kendall mentioned too, because you really are dealing with just the whole person. You know everything about them, and they share just the most juicy tidbits of their life throughout the journey. So it is an honor too.
Jennifer, tell me about your value system and the way that influences how you work with your philanthropic clients.
Well, my personal mission statement is to make the world a better place. And I love working with people who also want to make the world a better place through their philanthropy, through their giving, through mentoring the next generations in their family with philanthropy. So I find it a real honor to work with the clients I have, because they do share very personal things about which charities matter to them and why, and we go into their personal values pretty deeply. So I love it. I love seeing the magic happen.
That's beautiful. So this next question is a visioning question. I'd like for all of you to imagine 100 years in the future for the community here in the Inland Northwest. And how does that community look because of passionate and invested individuals who've done thoughtful planning about their estate, about their assets? What does the future hold with people who are really savvy and invested in making sure their value system is reflected for the long haul? Kendall, I'm going to pick on you first.
There we go. Sorry, my mute was not working. I'm going to cheat a little bit and use a quote from someone much wiser than myself, which is who is Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And I agree with that so strongly. I think that it's really easy to get caught up in thinking everything needs to be this huge movement or that everybody has to be doing this big, huge, amazing thing, but those small collective actions can make such an amazing difference. And when I work with clients on their estate plans, certainly I can't tell them what to put in their plan by any means, but I always do put little suggestions like this could be a really good place if there's a nonprofit organization that you're really passionate about. You could make that gift here and then leave the remainder of your estate to your kids. I think that sometimes people need a little bit of suggestion in that manner to even think, oh, wow, I could include a nonprofit in my estate plan. That's such a great idea. I would love to do that. So I do think that every person doing their small part 10 years from now, 100 years from now, if people are really committed to making the difference where they can, I think it will have a huge cumulative effect on our community.
Thank you. Jennifer, I have you up next on my screen.
Well, that was a really good point about everyone can do something. And I also want to say that everyone can be a major donor at the end of life. So if you've been giving $100 gifts over and over, and that's wonderful and it's made a difference, think about doing something big with your estate at the end for the charities that you love. So I do think if all of us did something, we would see a magnificent result in this community, and it would be a place that everyone in the world would want to live in.
But hopefully they don't all come to it.
Well, yeah, okay. No, we don't want everyone here, but it will be the envy of the world because it will be so special.
I love it. All right, Chelsea, tell us about your vision for the future.
Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We have a lot of work to do to get to my vision of the future. And I think that's why there is an imperative to start now, to start, investing in your community, investing in what matters to you, whatever the case may be for your individual goals. My vision, obviously, is a community that's filled with love, as trite as that may sound. It's something I think we're really struggling with right now, where policies are enacted smoothly, where we can really know that our vision has a chance to thrive and that we live in a safe, protected place. So we have a lot of work to do, though, and that's why we're on the Zoom call, and that's why we all do the individual work that we do. We got to do it now. It's not tomorrow. It's not 10 years from now. It's today. It's 10 years ago.
I like it. Joy, tell us about your vision for the future.
Sure. I'm going to start off by sharing some depressing statistics, because I'm not sure everybody knows this about the funeral industry. So sorry to start in that place. But so currently, when you think about like a global scale flame cremation, like traditional, cremation that we think of every day, emits over 6.8 million metric tons of carbon dioxide, and that's on an annual basis. Annually in the United States, the funeral industry uses 4.3 million gallons of embalming fluid, usually formaldehyde, 20 million board feet of hardwoods for caskets, and 17,000 tons of copper and bronze for caskets. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a bunch of other statistics I could share with you. I just thought those were some pretty staggering numbers. So my vision of the future is that the funeral and cemetery industry shifts, and they'll only do that if there's demand for more greener, natural options. So it's really encouraging to me that the individuals in our community and across the world are changing the way that they think about it, and there's growing interest in more natural and sustainable ways to approach our end-of-life arrangements. So this change in thinking and action, I mean, especially the action, will contribute to healthier communities and healthier ecosystems. So that's my vision, is that we make this shift, because those little changes that everybody can make a big difference.
I think that's well said. And when I look 100 years into the future, and what I hope my involvement in this world will look like, is that our community has a safe and healthy set of ecosystem services. So our water is clean and our air is clean, and everyone in our community has access to engage in the outdoors in a way that adds health and beauty and joy to their lives. I believe that that's something everyone deserves to experience, and the healing and wellness elements of that can't be underestimated. So being involved in a community of people who have a set of values that reflect that sustainability and that connection to nature is really important to me. And that's what I hope our community is in 100 years. So I want to shift a little bit and talk about the clients that you work with on a regular basis. Talk to me about what's one of the biggest things you find that they overlook or fail to consider when they're planning for their future, or, you know, what's going to happen with the heirs of their estate and that kind of thing. Jennifer, I'm going to toss that question to you first.
Sure, I'm happy to start. I think the biggest thing that is often overlooked is that your assets can only go to 3 different buckets. They can go to charity, to the government, or to your heirs. And I've talked with a number of people who think, well, I just want to give it all to my heirs. No, in a lot of situations, the government's going to be wanting a large portion or a portion of your assets. So, but you can be proactive and make sure that charity gets something of your assets. The government will get much less, or maybe even nothing, and it's possible that your heirs can get more. So I really want people to consider the importance of planning.
Planning which of those 3 buckets it goes into,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Plan your legacy. Don't just let it happen accidentally. I mean, all of us have one of 2 estate plans. Either we have a plan that is the default plan because we didn't do anything, and that's where the government, the state of Washington, if you're in Washington, they will gladly take over, take a big portion of it, and your heirs will get some. Or you can have a thoughtful plan where charity will get some, the state will get a little bit, maybe nothing, and then your heirs can get money. So
thank you. So Chelsea, I'm going to send that question to you next. As you're working with financial plans with your clients, what are some things that they maybe fail to consider consistently, or things that they overlook in doing that planning?
I think Jennifer said it so well, that your money really can only go certain places once you pass or while you're living. And without a plan, it's a haphazard situation that you're really leaving a lot of money on the table for that can be used for your heirs or for your community, like we talked about earlier. There's going to be about $70 trillion pass from the boomer generation to millennials in the next 10-ish, 20 years. And so that is a staggering amount of money for millennials that may not know exactly how to manage money. We part of that, have lived through a really interesting economic environment. And so having a plan, even if you think, oh, that's down the road, oh, that's going to happen later, starting a plan now will ensure that those dollars, when transferred to the next generation, are going to be put to good use, put to the things that really align with the values of the person receiving them. So I think that's one thing people fail to consider. I hear often, well, I don't have enough money for a plan. That's not true. A strategy will help you maximize every single dollar. And there are so many strategies that aren't necessarily being adequately utilized, and a lot of it has to do with taxes, like Jennifer said. There are tax strategies in conjunction with your financial strategies that will leave more money for your heirs, more money for your community. And through things like qualified charitable distributions, you can leave more money to nonprofits or more money to things that you align with.
Thank you. Kendall, talk to me about things that your clients maybe fail to realize in planning.
There are two specific ones that I thought of. So one is within estate planning. I find that most of my clients are familiar with wills, and they'll come to me and say, I need to get a will or I need to get a trust. And I think a lot of clients don't realize that they also need durable power of attorney documents. So those are documents where you can designate another person to make decisions for you if you are alive, but unable to make those decisions for yourself. So that is a very common conversation that I have with clients. And the other little tidbit that comes up often is that, yes, absolutely, having a will is very important. Having a will by itself does not mean that your estate avoids the probate process. It is exactly what Jennifer said. You can either have an estate plan and a distribution that you've created yourself within your will, or you can have the one that the state tells you is what happens if you die without a will. But having a will by itself does not mean that the probate process is avoided.
Right. Those are good tips. Thank you. And Joy, your line of work is a little bit different, but as you're consulting with families or individuals about their end of life plans, what are things that you find that they might not take into consideration?
Sure, there's a couple things that come to mind. One actually ties in really well with what Kendall just mentioned, is a lot of folks believe that their power of attorney, the person who's assigned as their power of attorney, can make their funeral arrangements after they pass, which isn't true because that stops being effective when they pass. So the best way to make sure you have your plans in place is to pre-plan and prepay for them, because then it's all recorded, and that's really the best way to ensure that your end of life plan is implemented the way you want it to be. So having said that, there's also many people in our community that value stewardship, and they don't necessarily know that we have green options available here in Spokane. So locally, we can do green burial, we can do water cremation and human composting. So those are all available through Heritage Funeral Home and or Riverside Memorial Park. And so it makes it really easy to plan for if that's what you care about, and those are the options that you want to choose. Sometimes it seems like, oh, human composting, that we hear about that happening in Seattle. Like, we can make it happen here. So, yeah.
Thank you. Let's see. Kendall, if you could give one piece of advice on behalf of your entire profession, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. I think my piece of advice would be, don't wait until it's too late. And it also happens to rhyme, which is a great little soundbite. But truly, and I'm sure all of us, with doing the kind of work that we do, we've heard so many heart-wrenching stories about people who don't have an estate plan and they die in a tragic accident and they leave kids behind, or there's a retirement account that doesn't have any beneficiaries on it. We actually have a lot of control over what happens to our assets and to our families, but we have to proactively exercise that. And I just hate when the impetus for someone coming to do their estate planning, their financial planning, to get their philanthropic giving figured out, to figure out their burial ideas, that happens because a tragic event has occurred. So please don't wait until that time. You might not think you have a large enough estate to do estate planning, but in a lot of situations, having a smaller estate actually makes estate planning even more important. So please, estate planning attorneys are great in our community. Please reach out to one of us. We would be happy to help.
Thank you. Jennifer, what about you? If you could give one piece of advice on behalf of philanthropy advisors everywhere, what would it be?
Well, I just want to tell people, check out donor advised funds. If you don't have one yet, they're a very good way to make donations. You get an immediate tax deduction, the money can grow, and then you can give it out to multiple charities, however many charities you want, over time. And it's just an incredible way to be flexible with your giving. You know, a lot of people in years gone by would want to set up a family foundation, but I'm finding more and more people see the great advantages to donor advised funds, and they just want to go with those. So that you can be anonymous in your giving, whereas with family foundations, you can't. But anyway, Innovia, our Inland Northwest Community Foundation, they used to be Inland Northwest Community Foundation. They're Innovia Foundation now, but they can set up donor advised fund for you if you want. And then also your brokerage firm can do that as well.
All right. Donor advised funds. We love those in the nonprofit sector.
Oh, and one other thing, you can actually designate someone to be in charge of your donor advised fund when you pass. So if you want to involve your children, your grandchildren into philanthropy, you can give them that assignment when you're gone.
Thank you. Joy, what about you? What piece of advice would you give on behalf of your industry?
I have so much advice. So in this industry, I think making your funeral arrangements and cemetery arrangements in advance, it is a gift to your family, because when, you know, for those of you who have experienced a loved one who has died, when you're grieving, you don't want to have to make all these decisions. A lot of people I talk to say they don't even remember what happened during that time. And so it's a gift to your family to have it already pre-planned and prepaid and just taken care of. Another benefit of that is you get to lock in today's prices. So if you bought a niche at today's price, then you don't have to, if you pass away in 20 years, your family doesn't have to pay the price in 20 years. So all of our options, we have like payment plans, make it really easy for people. We just ran a special that was like 0 down and interest free for 5 years. So we try to make it really accessible to people to be able to do this. And our team is all about educating and, like I said, advocacy. So I would just really recommend at least visiting to start thinking about the process and thinking about what you want to do. We're happy to give you tours, talk to you about all of our green options. We have a lot. So just start the process now.
Thank you. And Chelsea, what about you? What piece of advice would you give?
I would say assemble your team. It's very fitting for this group of absolutely wonderful women, but having a solid team of professionals that know what they're talking about and that are committed to helping you and your family through this transition and others is absolutely necessary. Make sure that when you assemble that team, you feel seen and heard by the professional you're talking. If it's a CPA, if it's an estate planning attorney, if it's a funeral home director, if it's the director of development of the charity you want to donate to, it's very important that you feel like you can trust them to understand your vision. So assemble your team. Second thing is part of that, I would say specifically for what I do as a financial advisor, is don't leave your money and your vision on the table. Create a plan today, just like what Kendall said. The worst time to create these plans and deal with the future and your legacy is when you're already in the midst of an emergency or in the midst of a transition. By setting your plan today and by kind of thinking through what does this look like for the future, you are putting legs on your vision. You're actualizing your vision for both your future, for your heirs' future, and for your community's future. So sit down with those professionals that you trust, tell them what you want, and let them help you kind of create that. You don't have to do it on your own.
That's great. And thank you for calling out this incredible group of professional women. This is a really exciting Zoom room to be in right now. Wow. So the next question here is, how can people find ways to increase the positive impact in our community, their positive impact in our community, both in the short term and in the long term? And Jennifer, I'm going to send that question to you first.
Oh, I'd love to be first. So, what I would really encourage people to do is to be bold with your giving. Give now, give generously, give like it matters, and you will see the impact it has in the world and then also in you. So there are many studies that show people who are generous live longer, they're happier, they have more friends, they're more joyful. So I'm just a big believer in the power of philanthropy. And then on the long term, leave a legacy, plan something remarkable for your community and your family.
Thank you. Joy, how about you? What's something people can do here in the short term to make a difference in our community and then more in the long term?
Definitely. By choosing a green alternative for your end of life plans, in the short term, it gives your family peace of mind that things are taken care of. And in the long run, it's protecting the natural environment for generations to come. So if we can all kind of change our mindset and think about how our end of life plans impact other people and the environment, then I think it can really make a difference.
Thank you. Chelsea, what about you? What can our community members do at an individual level to make a difference in the short term and then in the long term?
Yeah. So from my perspective, with this financial advisor hat on, one thing that people can do in the short term is they can grow their wealth and have alignment with their values. So there are different investment instruments that have what's called ESG ratings, and that stands for environmental social governance. It's basically like 3 legs of a stool that help a corporation or business show off how environmentally sustainable they are, how they treat their workers, and how their board and governance is kind of structured. So along with that, a lot of the focus is on environmental with these ESG instruments. So right now you can have a retirement portfolio. You can invest, grow your money by a certain percentage and still have it you can have it divested from fossil fuels if you choose. You can have it investing in companies that treat their workers fairly. So there is in the short term a way to grow your wealth and do it in alignment with your values or your ethics. Long term, again, I'm going to go back to assemble your team. In the long term, having a strategy on how to transfer your wealth and maximize your portfolio is the best way to go. And that can look like a number of strategies that I don't need to rattle off at this exact second, but we do have to be very conscientious of what money we give to taxes, what money we give to our community, and what money we give to our heirs. And there are strategies to do it, and it's a puzzle. So find someone you want to solve that puzzle with.
I love the team metaphor. That's fantastic. So Kendall, what about you?
I think in the short term, I would just challenge folks to think about if there's one organization or one cause that they feel really passionately and to find a way to get involved, whether that's donating $5 a month and sharing that organization's posts on social media, just finding some way to make an impact, even if it might feel kind of small, it will make a big difference in the long run. And in the longer term, I certainly would encourage people to include a charitable organization in their estate plan, regardless of what somebody's religious beliefs might be. I've always been really intrigued with the idea of tithing, which is giving 10% of what you have away. And I just find that to be such a beautiful gesture to support your community and support amazing causes that are happening. And if that's within the context of an estate plan, that still leaves you 90% of your estate to distribute to your heirs or to other people that might be really close to you and really important to you, but to consider including a charitable organization in your long-term estate plan.
That's great. Now I'm going to throw a curveball question that wasn't in the list. So just to keep everybody on their toes. I've had several conversations with some of our donors over the last several months. And I just, at kind of this micro level, I'm seeing a shift from people who are creating an estate plan to be executed upon their passing, to people who are saying, I want to see the impact of my giving while I'm still alive. I want to do this giving while I'm still alive. And I'm wondering if others of you are seeing shifts in in trends of how people are addressing their estate and their financial planning? And what do you think maybe those shifts might mean for our community in the future? And Kendall, since you're still on my screen here, I'm gonna tag you first.
Sure. I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what you shared, Carol. I certainly have seen that with clients who I will talk to them about some of the, I'm certainly not a tax attorney or an accountant, but I will speak a little bit with them about some tax considerations and what the taxable estate threshold is, and kind of understand from them whether they might be above or below that. And I've had more than a handful of clients who say, I'm going to spend all of my money. So even if I'm above that, I'm going to spend it before I die. So it is a little bit of that component of, I want to see my money be used while I'm alive, whether that's in the charitable giving sphere, whether that's making gifts to loved ones while they're still alive. And I can really appreciate that and understand where they're coming from, and what a beautiful opportunity to actually see the fruits of your labor be enjoyed by your loved ones, or be put to really great use by a nonprofit organization. So I have seen some of the same trends that you've seen, Carol.
Joy, what about you? Are you seeing any kind of shifts in funeral planning, end of life planning that may be indicators of what's coming for our community?
Yes, definitely more green options. So as I mentioned, water cremation is a similar but more gentle process than flame cremation. So right now, about 70% of the people in Washington choose flame cremation. So I'm noticing that folks are really getting interested in how the water cremation works. And, you know, they're familiar with flame cremation, and water is similar. And you know, human composting might be a little too new for them. So I'm noticing the water cremation is very popular. Also the natural burial, because that's been around forever, but it's sort of coming back around. And another thing that we see, speaking of people wanting to spend their money now and see it now, is we see families purchasing like a whole, like several spaces together so they could keep their family together. Whether that is, you know, like we have family spaces in the green burial that up to 6 people can be placed there. So a lot of the family type spaces are becoming more popular as well.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Chelsea, what about you? What maybe shifts in the industry do you see that are indicative of changes in our community?
You know, I feel like there is a bigger impetus for people to give charitably now. I think they see where maybe business as usual isn't cutting it and isn't solving the needs that matter to them. And I think because of that, they see that nonprofits and community organizations, grassroots organizations have kind of stepped up to fill that gap. And they see that there's a need, right? And if all nonprofits are doing that job, they're communicating that need every day on how much they need the support of the community. That's how they run. So there are tax strategies, like Kendall said, again, I'm not a CPA, but I work with them to be, and Jennifer probably can speak to this pretty eloquently as well, but you are able to transfer some of your assets and wealth and give yourself a tax advantage. So again, I mentioned a QCD earlier, and if you're 70 and a half or older, you're able to take what would be your minimum required distribution from your IRA or an inherited IRA and give it straight to a charity. And then you're not taxed on any of that money. And that obviously goes to support your vision in the community. So there are and there's the charitable gift funds too that you can work with. So there are many strategies that I see people not wanting to just pass and leave one chunk of money at the end, but give little bits throughout their life so that, like you said, Carol, they can see their impact. They can get the thank you card from the nonprofit or whatever the case may be from the church. And it supports that vision. And again, like Kendall said, the idea of tithing and giving a little bit over time, it creates a sense of connection to what you care about, as opposed to just knowing when you die, something's taken care of. So I encourage anyone who's thinking about starting to parse out their legacy now, as opposed to at the end of their life. There are ways to do it, and start today. It's a great option for everybody in the community and for you.
Thank you. Jennifer, talk to me about trends that you see in philanthropy and where we may be headed as a community.
Sure. So I like the motto, give with a warm hand. Give while you're alive, because you do get to see the impact. And that really resonates with a lot of people. And I encourage people to think about both. You can give through your estate. Of course, you want to make sure that you have enough money to live on. You don't want to be without, but there's just so many advantages to giving now and to seeing your vision carried out for what matters to you. You'll make new friends, you'll be happier, you'll be a good example to your family as well. And when they see, hey, I really care about these certain things in our community, they'll be impressed with that, and they will gain an appreciation for that as well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll handle the curveball masterfully. Is there any I'll kind of open the floor here. Is there anything that we haven't covered that anyone wants to share as we wrap things up this afternoon? I will share one thing. As a director of philanthropy, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say that I believe deeply that investing in an organization like Inland Northwest Land Conservancy is a tremendous way to make a difference for the future of our community. The work that we do in protecting both public and private land, we work in legal agreements that are designed to last in perpetuity. And so if you want to talk about creating a legacy that is going to outlast you by decades, Inland Northwest Land Conservancy is one of the best ways to do that. We protect land in perpetuity. We're really focused on the health and wellness of our community as it relates to the natural world. And we are so deeply honored by the trust that our donors put in us when they make philanthropic decisions that involve us. And we're really excited to be on that team, to be a part of your team in helping to realize your philanthropic and community-minded goals for the future.